Hello, my name is Jocelyn Webrink. Today, on behalf of my team, 24/8, I will be presenting our findings for our client Burke on how they can identify and retain talent from Gen Z and millennials. So first, we have to understand who is Burke. Burke is an independent market research firm that was founded in 1931, has headquarters in Cincinnati, Ohio, and has multiple locations in the US. Burke is an international research and consulting firm that helps manufacturing and service companies understand and accurately predict marketplace behavior through data, information, guidance, and more. Burke's mission is to provide superior decision support services that enable their clients to succeed. So who does Burke do it for? Burke has dedicated their business operations to their community and to their employees. They do this through many organizations, some being the Partners in Education in Cincinnati, the American Heart Association Mini Marathon, the Fine Arts Fund, the Flying Pig Marathon, United Way, and Burke's internal organization, BCause, which is Burke's community involvement program that provides opportunities for employees to volunteer in the community. So what is the challenge? Or in other words, what is the motivation for our research? Well, the first is, what can our client Burke do to retain talent from Gen Z and millennials while staying true to their brand? And our other question, what does Burke need to do when screening for candidates that are most likely to help their brand grow? And how did we conduct our research? Well, we started by conducting secondary data research on career readiness for Gen Z, younger millennials, and older millennials. We also conducted secondary data research of Professor Rosca's LinkedIn interviews to identify what drives career readiness and employee engagement. We also conducted in-depth interviews with Burke's current and prospective employees and recruiters to identify their needs from inbound Gen Z and millennials. And lastly, we designed interviewee and recruiter journeys that would allow recruiters and job candidates to put themselves in each other's roles. And what did we find? Well, to answer the first question, how can Burke retain talent from Gen Z and millennials while staying true to their brand? Our first recommendation is Burke managers should give employees a report which outline their ability to work with others, their rank compared to other employees, their readiness and chargeability to a job, and lastly, their ability to generate new ideas. Our second recommendation is that Burke maintain their current efforts, mostly including the BCause organization. And our third recommendation would be to implement a sort of playroom. This could be a place where employees can go to play table tennis or board games, or even just take a minute to relax. All of this would be to ensure and combat against an overworked and bored millennial. And as far as our second question, what does Burke need to do when screening for candidates? We first recommend that Burke maintain their selective attitude when it comes to the interview and hiring process, but we also suggest that they incorporate a more open-mindedness and acknowledge the fact that interviews are a two-way street. So understanding this dynamic perspective from Gen Zs and millennials could open up better communication and allow mutual understanding from both sides of the interview. We also would suggest that recruiters focus on the Big Six college experiences when asking their questions. And finally, to develop some sort of mentorship program by going and visiting colleges to basically screen them months in advance so that they know what kind of questions they should be asking in an interview, whether that is for Burke or for someone else in the future. As I briefly explained earlier, our research process was heavily focused on employee engagement. So what is employee engagement? It is the emotional commitment the employee has to the organization or to its goals. And why does employee engagement matter? Employee engagement leads to higher level of productivity, which leads to higher customer satisfaction, which leads to increased sales, which leads to higher profits, which then leads to higher shareholder return. And who are the least engaged? Well, it's millennials. Millennials are disillusioned to traditional business operations and are skeptical about the economic and social progress for many big businesses. So how do you create an engaging employee experience? Well, first, create a positive workplace that encompasses diversity and inclusion. Provide concrete onboarding and continual training programs. Develop tasks that are meaningful and job duties that have a purpose. And lastly, perform check-ins often, daily, weekly, all in order to maintain a clarity and focus between managers and employees. And a few companies that have done this very well are Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft. Apple creates an environment where creativity can flow and their employees are taken care of financially. Amazon is a fast-moving environment with high expectations. Google treats their employees to many luxuries and promotes an inclusive environment. Facebook gives their employees many perks and their employees feel valued. And Microsoft has a free-flowing workspace that also promotes creativity, and they value trust and collaboration between manager and employees. So how can you improve engagement for Gen Z and millennials? Well, surveys have found that millennials ranked opportunities for career progression as their top trait in an employer. So this means that offering development plans specifically tailored to each employee's career path in the company is one way that Burke can increase employee engagement for millennials. And as far as Gen Z, 53% of those within Gen Z stated that they prefer face-to-face interactions. So Burke can increase employee engagement by focusing on more personal interactions with its employees through the daily and weekly checkups and pushing coworker relationships and environments. So all of this brings us back to our solutions, our top of the line findings, which are 1, Burke should implement monthly meetings between manager and employee that gives feedback via an assessment based upon those who work with the employee. 2, create an event each month that will allow employees to come together and bring to light new processes, whether that be internal or external, and basically just give millennials their entrepreneurial spirit a voice. 3, develop a sort of playroom where employees can go and take a break and that way combat boredom or overworked millennials. And lastly, helping up and coming candidates months in advance by mentoring and going to visit local colleges and just give them an overall what to expect in an interview and also how to be prepared in an interview. That way that when they do come out into the workforce, they're ready and asking the appropriate questions.